The person most likely to quietly lose their kidneys isn't eating badly. They're eating perfectly. That's not a metaphor, that's what the research actually shows. And the meal at the center of this isn't junk food, isn't a cheat day, and isn't anything you'd ever think to question. Because from the outside, it looks exactly like discipline. Most people never think about their kidneys once, until they fail. And here's what separates kidney failure from almost every other health crisis: by the time you feel it, you've already lost somewhere between 60 and 80% of function. Permanently. Not a slow warning with time to respond. A cliff you walk straight off while feeling completely fine, clean lab results, high energy, every reason to believe the system is working. The meal I'm about to describe is being eaten right now, this morning and this afternoon, by millions of people who believe they are doing exactly that. There's a biological mechanism most people have never heard of, not because it's disputed, but because it never made it out of kidney research and into the nutrition conversation that everyone is already having. It's called hyperfiltration. And once you understand what it does to the kidneys over time, you'll never look at a protein shake the same way again. Your kidneys contain roughly 2 million tiny filtering units. Each one runs on pressure. A dense cluster of microscopic blood vessels inside each unit creates a controlled, high-pressure cleaning system, filtering waste from your blood around the clock, every single day. Under normal conditions, that pressure stays within a safe operating range. But when your kidneys have to process a sudden, large protein load, the pressure inside those filtering units spikes hard. The kidneys shift into overdrive. More blood gets forced through faster, under higher internal strain, per unit time. And here is the detail that changes everything: those filtering units do not regrow. The ones you were born with are the only ones you will ever have. When hyperfiltration damages them, and it does damage them, even at levels far below anything that produces a symptom, that damage is permanent. Not catastrophic and sudden. Microscopic and cumulative. Below the threshold of feeling. Below the threshold that standard testing catches. But real, irreversible, and compounding silently every single day. The same pattern repeats. Research in peer-reviewed nephrology journals has consistently linked high dietary protein intake, specifically above roughly 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, with measurable, sustained decline in kidney function over time in otherwise healthy adults. Not people already managing kidney disease. Not people with diabetes or high blood pressure. Active, healthy people eating what the fitness world told them was optimal for performance and body composition. But that's only the first layer. The meal has two more, and the three of them together are what make this genuinely dangerous in a way that none of them would be alone. Here's what the meal looks like. You already know. You've seen it in every fitness account, every meal prep video, every "what I eat in a day" post from someone who actually takes their health seriously. A protein shake first thing in the morning, 1 or 2 scoops, 40 to 50 grams of protein, mixed with water or almond milk. Chicken breast and rice at lunch, cooked in a batch on Sunday, sitting in a container in their bag every weekday. A protein bar mid-afternoon, the one that says 20 grams of protein on the front end, healthy snack, in the marketing language. Another lean protein at dinner. More chicken. Canned tuna. Ground turkey. Maybe high-protein Greek yogurt. Total protein by end of day, 160 to 220 grams. Macros tracked carefully. Every calorie accounted for. This is not lazy eating. This is the most structured, committed version of eating that most people ever attempt. The framework is working. Muscle is building. Body composition is improving. Every number that can be measured is moving in the right direction. The kidneys are not moving in the right direction. And not one of those numbers is measuring that. Here's the second layer, and this one surprises almost everyone. Most processed protein products, protein bars, protein shakes, packaged deli meats, commercially brined chicken, contain inorganic phosphate compounds. These are preservatives and texture agents that show up on ingredient labels as sodium phosphate, potassium phosphate, disodium phosphate, or tricalcium phosphate. They're legal. They're in hundreds of foods that carry a health-conscious image. And in a world where people scan labels for sugar content and saturated fat, phosphate compounds are almost completely invisible. Nobody taught you to look for them. Here's why that invisibility costs the kidneys: natural phosphorus, the kind in whole eggs, fresh unprocessed meat, nuts, and legumes, is absorbed by your gut at roughly 40 to 60% efficiency. The gut wall acts as a partial filter. Some gets through, some doesn't. There's a built-in regulatory mechanism right there in the digestive system itself. But inorganic phosphate additives, the kind added during food processing, bypass that mechanism almost entirely. They're absorbed at close to 100% efficiency. Everything entering the gut enters the bloodstream. There is no filter step. And the kidneys are responsible for clearing all of it, every gram, every meal, every day, with nothing acting as a buffer in between. Nephrology research has shown that high dietary phosphate specifically from food additives, not from natural whole food sources, significantly increases kidney filtration burden through mechanisms that are separate from, and additive to, the burden already created by high protein intake. Two different stressors, operating through two distinct biological pathways, hitting the same filtering units simultaneously. The combined pressure is greater than either one produces on its own. Then sodium walks in. The average protein bar carries between 200 and 400 milligrams of sodium. A flavored protein shake with added ingredients sits in the same range. Commercially packaged chicken, brined for texture and shelf life, as most processed poultry is, adds more at lunch. By mid-afternoon, someone running this meal has moved 3 separate pressure signals through their kidneys at the same time. The protein load is driving hyperfiltration. The near completely absorbed inorganic phosphate is adding its own distinct filtration demand. And the sodium is raising blood volume and vascular pressure, amplifying the strain on every filtering unit in the system. Each input is manageable in isolation. Together, every day, across months and years of the same routine, they create what kidney specialists call accelerated nephron loss. A faster than normal erosion of the kidney's functional reserve. Happening in silence. Inside people who look and feel perfectly healthy by every available measure. And here's the part that should stop you cold: you will not know it's happening. Standard kidney tests check a waste product your kidneys filter from the blood. That number stays within normal range until kidney filtration capacity drops below about 60% of normal. Which means someone can lose 40% of their kidney function, nearly half, and receive a blood test result that reads, all clear. The test isn't broken. It was built to detect established kidney disease in people already at known risk. It was not built to detect the slow, silent erosion of healthy filtering units in someone who is eating the most optimized diet in the room and training 5 days a week. By the time the standard test catches anything, the window for early action has already closed. And here's the demographic detail that sharpens all of this: the damage is cumulative and time-dependent, which means this is not primarily a middle-aged problem. The people carrying the highest risk are the ones who started young and stayed consistent. Someone who adopted this eating pattern at 24 and maintained it faithfully through their mid-30s has been running elevated kidney pressure for a decade before any routine test shows a single abnormal result. By 35, they may have shed 25 to 30% of functional kidney capacity, still reading as completely normal on every annual panel, never receiving a word of concern from any doctor, while the reserve that should have protected them through their 50s and 60s is already quietly gone. The system wasn't designed to catch this. It was designed to catch something much further down the damage curve. Here's where the real irony lives. The nutritional framework that produced this meal was built on legitimate science. Research on protein's role in muscle building, body composition, and metabolic health is solid, well replicated, and correctly applied to the question it was designed to answer. The framework genuinely delivers what it promises. But kidney filtration load was never a variable in the studies that built it, not because kidneys were considered unimportant, but because the researchers were asking a completely different question. They were asking, what intake level maximizes muscle? The follow-up question, what does that intake level cost the kidneys across a decade of consistent use, was outside the study design, outside the funding scope, and outside the conversation that turned academic research into daily eating culture. When a system optimizes for one variable without measuring adjacent costs, those costs don't disappear. They accumulate in the systems no one built a metric for. Here, that system is the kidney. So picture what this looks like in practice. The person eating this meal is probably the healthiest looking person in most rooms they walk into. Lean, muscular, high energy, disciplined. Clean blood work every year. A doctor who has no concerns, because the tests aren't designed to surface this concern. Every number they track confirms the strategy is working. They feel well. They look well. They have every reason to keep going exactly as they are. The kidneys are the one organ in that entire picture with no visible output, no daily feedback signal, and no early warning that rises to the surface before meaningful, permanent loss has already occurred. This person does everything right. The thing going wrong is the one thing none of their metrics ever measured. Here's what the research points to as a safer threshold: dietary protein in the range of 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight maintains muscle protein synthesis outcomes for most healthy adults while substantially reducing chronic hyperfiltration risk. For a 180-pound person, that's roughly 65 to 98 grams of protein per day, not the 160 to 220 grams that high-performance nutrition culture commonly presents as the baseline for serious results. That gap between what fitness culture recommends and what kidney research identifies as safe for long-term organ health is not a rounding error. It's where years of silent nephron loss happen. The phosphate problem has a cleaner fix. It's almost entirely about source. Whole food proteins, eggs, fresh fish like salmon and sardines, legumes, unprocessed fresh meat, carry natural phosphorus that the gut partially filters and regulates. The near 100% absorption problem lives almost exclusively in processed protein products, bars, shakes, packaged chicken, deli meats. Reading an ingredient label for phosphate compounds takes 15 seconds. The information is printed right there on the package. It just requires knowing what those words mean when you see them, and caring about something the clean eating framework never thought to tell you to care about. Sodium follows exactly the same logic. Unprocessed proteins carry naturally low sodium. The sodium load enters with the processing. Replacing processed protein products with whole food equivalents removes the third pressure input from the system without meaningfully changing the protein content of the diet. And this is what that is not: an argument that protein is dangerous. That framing would be wrong, and it would miss everything. Protein is essential. The science behind it is real. The point is narrow and specific: the processed version of high-protein eating, built on convenience products and packaged supplements, carries a compounding kidney burden the framework was never designed to measure and still doesn't account for. That burden produces no symptom. It doesn't surface in routine tests. It shows up years later, when the reserve is gone and the options have already narrowed. Kidneys can feel completely normal at half capacity. That isn't a safety net. It's the reason the warning always comes too late. The reserve is what lets the damage stay invisible, right up until it isn't. If you've been eating this way for more than 2 years, the most valuable conversation you can have right now isn't with a fitness coach. It's with a doctor who can order a cystatin C test, a more sensitive kidney function marker that detects filtration decline earlier in the curve, before standard tests show anything abnormal. Most people have never been offered it because physicians don't order it without a pre-existing reason for concern. You can ask for it by name. Tell your doctor you've been following a high-protein diet for an extended period and you want cystatin C added to your next blood panel. One test. One specific conversation. Taken in the window where it still changes something, before anything alarming appears on the results that used to say you were fine. Because that window exists. It's real. And it doesn't announce itself before it closes. Most of the people who needed to hear this will never hear it, not because the research isn't there, but because it never made it into the conversation they were already having. If you want content that lives in that gap, between what the science actually shows and what health culture actually discusses, subscribe. That's the only thing we're here to do. And we'll be here again next week.